Hey, mental health warriors. I want to thank everybody for tuning in this evening. Super excited. I've gone international now. So I have Karin on, Stephan, right? Did I say that
Hmm.
correctly? Stephan from
Hmm.
Zurich, Switzerland. Is that correct?
That
Yep.
is correct.
And super excited to have her on the show. She's done some amazing things and she has an app out there, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But like always, I want to say, be sure to go out to VeteranTrashTalk.com, visit all of our shops. You can see our different podcasts that we have. I talk about it all the time. You can go out there and get your free, you can get our merch out there, your Veterans Trash Talk Mental Health Warrior t-shirt. I talk about the importance of is I have the crisis number on the back. If you're ever in crisis, you can text 741 to 741 and it's free. You can talk to a counselor. They can help you out. If you do go onto our shop, you can use the code CB Charlie Bravo 2022 and save 10% on your whole order. All benefits, it goes back to Veterans Trash Talk. I don't get paid for this or anything. We solely do this to help others. So all the money goes to that, and we think it's very important. So with that, I hope everybody read my little blurb. They grabbed their glass of Pinot Noir. They're sitting back with a blanket and an open fire and getting ready to hear about Miss Karin. We were talking before the show started, Karin, and I want to dive back into it. First of all, why don't you tell my audience a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. So first of all, let me thank you for having me on the show. It's a real pleasure. And it also shows that we can be connected across continents and oceans and, be having a great conversation. So about myself, I'm a Swiss Colombian, born in Basel in Switzerland to a Colombian mother and a Swiss father. I have 4 siblings. One of them is from Vietnam, adopted from the war. And I grew up in challenging environments, not because of like money issues or any of that, but because there was so much potential to misunderstand each other. And my parents never got along. They really tried hard to be good parents, but they had issues, and they had great issues with each other, with us. They were a great deal overwhelmed. They passed on the overwhelm. So in short, I had my struggles in my childhood, and I thought it was due to language, to not understanding each other, and that all the fighting and all the misunderstanding were, due to not speaking the same language. It drove me to learn a lot of languages along the way, and it eventually drove me to study music, because I found out, there is this language that everyone understands, and it goes straight to the heart. And it's something that, people seem to be happy with. So I need to learn that. And of course, I found out that it's not the answer to every problem, and it doesn't solve every misunderstanding, but it was worth the while. I found it very early. In my early 20s, I founded my first company after studying in the US, in LA. And I kept that company and led it and owned it for about 20 years. And then I finally studied what I had always wanted to study, which was psychology, to better understand beyond languages how people tick, what makes us, make it difficult for ourselves and for others. What are the things that make us angry? What are the things that make us sad, happy? What drives us in our behavior? And I put that to work. I led several communities. I built business. I built relationships, ecosystem in the startup world in Asia. And then I came back after 30 years abroad to Switzerland to lead Impact Up Zurich, which is a startup hotbed, if you will, a community and a co-working, co-innovation location. And I studied at the same time, I studied transformation and digital management, and realized that technology needs to be taken into account when tackling the big problems of the world. And one of the big problems I saw coming before the pandemic, many years before, was mental health. And that's why I left my executive job in 2021. And I founded Earkick, my second venture. And yeah, that's, the logo up here. Sorry, wrong side. Yeah, that's part of my story. There's more to tell, but I'll pass it back to you, Cliff.
It's amazing. So, being a soldier, I was stationed in Germany, took German in college, and I used to be very good at speaking German, of course. So I forgot all that now. Good. I'm sure it'll come back to me at some point. Of course, last name Bauman, I have to learn some type of German, right? But it's interesting. So when you would go back to what you were saying about music, when I would go out on the economy and I would be visiting with, whomever, and the younger generation, I would ask them, how did you learn English? Because it wasn't conversational English or conversational German, right? It's not formal or proper. You just learn it. And a lot of them said they learned it by watching American TV shows or music videos. Music videos more so than, programs on TV. I think they started with the music and then kind of moved into the cartoons or whatever. And I thought that was always interesting. When you were talking about, the importance of music, a lot of veterans, people that suffer PTSD or other mental health issues, music really is a way to allow them to relax, to reflect, to go back to a happier time in their life. Before the show started, we were talking about the languages that you're familiar with or you speak. And one of them, you said you learned, what was it, Greek? And of course, I don't know if a lot of you know this or not, but I'm Greek on my mom's side of the family. We originally come from Tripoli, Greece, which is up by the mountains there in Greek. And so I was interested when you said that and you started talking about you wanted to read the old text. I just found that very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, learning a language is not, you do it for a reason, right? And very often the reason is curiosity and learning something that it potentially helps you build connection and relationships. And ancient Greek, I learned ancient Greek was mainly to know the original text of the Bible. And I'm glad I learned it, because you can read translations and they're good, but there's something about the music, the tone, the rhythm of each language that is very different from other languages. And when I read that text, it just, it felt like my body understood what the words were and the meaning. And in languages, every language has something special, and for me, it has colors, and it has, again, music, and it's worthwhile learning it. It doesn't have to be the whole language. You don't have to be perfectionist about it, but you will find treasures along the way whenever you engage with a language. And it can be a language that only a few people speak. It can be a language that or a lot of people speak, and you will find those treasures in both sides. So I can only encourage you to try it out. And even if you can only say hello, it means you are reaching out to someone, and you're building a bridge towards someone, and that's worth the while and the effort.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think as humans, we're always evolving, always learning. One thing I was curious about when we were talking is, we know that, here in America, we have, mental health crisis going on. We have soldiers, completing suicide 22 a day, give or take, for several different reasons. Can you give us an idea of what that is like in Switzerland? Is there, because we know even with children, we have an issue, and COVID put a highlight on kids, completing suicide. I had a good friend of mine, Linda Diaz, was on, and her daughter had completed suicide, and she went on to do a lot of great things and start a great foundation. And so I'm just kind of curious of what is it like in Switzerland or other countries you've been in that you're familiar with?
So, suicidal ideation, and all the problems that come with it, the challenges, those are global. Yeah. I would say the difference between the US and Switzerland is that we're not vocal about it, unfortunately. It's something that you still sweep under the rug. You don't talk about it. It just baffles people. And you hide the grief. It's still, unfortunately, something that people are ashamed of. Mm-hmm. And we look to the US for that, because the US is much more vocal about it, thank God. They have put words to what's happening. I would say in the US, maybe there is the numbers are higher, maybe. But every suicide is one too much.
Yeah,
one too many, right? Mm-hmm. So it doesn't help to know if this country has more or less. We shouldn't have any at all.
No,
that is what we need. Zero suicides.
It's right. And being able to sit here and have a conversation about mental health, about, I think that's so important. Because a lot of people do suffer in silence. And even here in the US, mm-hmm. There's a big stigma in the military still. And I fought that for 12 years when I first mm-hmm. publicly spoke about my suicide attempt and stuff in the military. And at that time, I was the only active duty officer ever to do that. Mm-hmm. But to continue that conversation after my service is I felt it was, very important. I was very happy that Veterans Trash Talk gave me a platform that my podcast is on now. But sometimes I think people, they can't think globally or the bigger picture that, this affects everybody that lives on this big blue planet that's spinning around in nothing in space. And, I just think it's so important to have that conversation. And I know it's hard. I know when you're in a society, because my degree's in sociology, right? And so that when you start breaking that stigma, or you start bringing that out, you get a lot of pushback from that. And it's not easy, and it's hard. It's very hard on you to do that, because you look down upon or frowned upon, or, but I think it's an important conversation to have. I think it is something that we need to talk about more. And, I'm really interested in the app that you had developed, Earkick. We talked about that a little bit before we came on the air. I really would like to dive into that now, because I think it's an important tool it's free to download. It's on the App Store. And I just really want, if you wouldn't mind, Karin, to give us a sense of how you came up with it, why you developed it. And when somebody downloads that app and they're using it, what are they going to get out of that and help them? And Mental Health Warriors, you guys know this. I talk about this all the time, how important it is to have different tools in your toolbox. And I really, when she contacted me on LinkedIn and I was looking at Earkick, I thought, man, this is a great tool, and I got to let my fans know about it. And that's, once again, I was so thankful that you agreed to come on the show. But I really would like, if you wouldn't mind, tell us about how Earkick came around,
sure.
And what people expect when they download that app, and what do they mm-hmm. get out of it. And then I'll also, we'll provide a link to her website, but you can also find it on the App Store, and it's spelled just like it is up there in her corner on her logo. So please tell us all about Earkick, Karin. I'm excited to hear about it.
Sure. So, I've always been interested in what makes people tick. And there was a point in my life where I got really frustrated, because everyone seemed, me included, seemed to only know better in hindsight. So I saw colleagues slip into mental disorders. I myself had my share of it. Both of my kids, in front of my eyes, slipped into mental health disorders, and nobody saw it coming. Yeah. I didn't see it. They didn't know it. And this kind of blind flight, or being caught by surprise, as it seems, made me furious. And I felt so powerless, because it was like, oh, afterwards, you can piece it together. Afterwards, you know better. Afterwards, you understand yourself and you understand the body and the cues that your body is giving you. So now we live in a day and age where technology can do so much, where we know so much, and still the brain and what happens, you know, inside us is measured with, or, you know, is explored with questionnaires, pen and paper, things like that, you know, and everything else gets measured easily, you know, for cancer, for diabetes, everything you have, you know, very, very objective measurement and very good ways to catch early signs. I wanted that for mental health as well. And it all starts with empowerment of the individual. Each one of us needs to know ourselves better and in a timely way, because then we are empowered to act. Knowledge is power, clarity is power. Now, then to give people that in a way that is not intrusive, required me and my team to build something that was A, free of cost, B, very effortless to use, easy to understand, and C, completely anonymous. Like no login, no personal data left, nothing of that. Because we knew this is a very vulnerable and, you know, very private matter. And if we want people to really get to know themselves better, track their symptoms, journal their feelings, express their thoughts, then it needs to be a very safe space. So we launched that free app, which is essentially a tracker. It's a mood and anxiety and mental health tracker that only takes 10 seconds a day to really capture where you're at. So what you do is you open it up, you record 10 seconds of your voice. You can also type if you're not comfortable recording your voice or video. And the algorithm, so it's an AI that is on your phone, will give you suggestions about where you're at in terms of your mood, your emotional health, your anxiety level, and more. It'll also give you context to it. And you can correct some of it if it's not accurate. The algorithm gets to know you better and better the more you journal or the more you log. You can also record symptoms. And this is very important because, let's say my child, she had symptoms that you can attribute to anything, you know, headaches or maybe a little loss of appetite, you know, tired here and there, maybe a bit forgetful. You know, a young person cannot put all the dots together. They just think they have a bad day or maybe school or whatever. But the algorithm is not fooled. So if your headaches increase or if your certain symptoms correlate with certain events or activities, it'll detect patterns and it'll show you those patterns via stats that you get from the first day on. So all you need to do is really regularly journal. You immediately get stats and you can start to see patterns, triggers. You can start to understand yourself based on your very own and private data. And the next step you can do with the app as well is set goals. Let's say your goal is to be less stressed or less anxious. Then you'll have a few things that you can do and you can track them. You know, it's gamified. So you can have the goal of something simple like drinking more water. You can customize it so that it nudges you, it reminds you one time a day, more often, whatever. And then you'll start, you know, inching yourself closer to those goals and achieving those targets. And it'll also show you how you get better over time. and how the things that you do contribute to a better mental health and to a better emotional health. And the other part that we also have in the app is content. So that means breathing exercises that help you calm down, or guided sessions, or something like an audio session that helps you if you feel like you're going to have a panic attack, things like that. And you can even see your heart rate drop if you have an Apple Watch that you can connect to it, and you do one of those very simple 1-minute breathing exercises. And even though you may not physically feel how your heart rate is going down, you sure will see it. You will see it go down. And then you understand, oh, this is helping me. My body's responding. It's calming me down. You keep doing it, right? So there's other things to the app as well. But what the bottom line of it is, you can take ownership of your own mental health journey. You don't have to go a certain place. You don't have to pay a certain price. You don't have to have a doctor's degree or anything to start owning your situation and to have agency over your routines and your habits. And that's really made easy and fun. I love to use it because it really helps me. It gives me feedback, it gives me suggestions on what to do. And yeah, there's much more to come with the app. So we're making it, we're on the way to make it completely automated, so that you don't have to do anything to have everything logged and to measure your mental health in a continuous and passive manner.
You brought that up because I was looking at it here, and this is what you were talking about, the anxiety relief, the music, the breathing and stuff like that. Because I know, when you have PTSD, you get triggers, right? And triggers can show up at any time. And this Earkick app, I would encourage everybody out there to go out there and download it. And I'm going to send it to my older son that's down in college, because he journals and he does things like that. Because I just think it's so important. And he does meditation. I don't know if you watched some of my shows, I've started doing yoga, and I'm really surprised the effects that yoga has had in my life, and just taking that moment to kind of relax and feel your environment around you, and learning how to, move and stretch and do things that your body hasn't done for 20 years or probably never. But it is amazing. And to have this, if you are in a bad place, or if you're not somewhere where you don't want to be, everybody's going to go to their phone, right? And to have something like this, it's pretty amazing. And I'm just going to try to get more people to know about it as much as I can, because I think it's an important tool. And I think social media sometimes gets a bad rep, right, Karin? People all the time says, oh, it's horrible, TikTok, Instagram, that's all you guys do. But you brought it up, in the digital age, it's not going to go away. And we have to find a way to make it to where it's a value added and not a value subtracted, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's very important, especially mental health wise, to have something like this. And if you get a moment, just go out there to Earkick, download on your phone. You will understand everything that she just talked about. But just to have that ability, not to have to search for music, or if you want to listen to a calming sound, water or something like that, you can go straight to your app. And then, like you said, 2 seconds, you're clicking on it and you're listening to it. One thing I find interesting, I was looking at this while you were talking, I wasn't being rude, that you have this gentleman on here that tells you about breathing, the video about breathing. And I think that's very important, because I think sometimes people think, there's a way to do it. There's an art to everything, right? And and I learned this in yoga, to do that really deep breathing they're talking about, I think is something that takes practice. I think it's for me, one thing I realized in yoga, or when I'm meditating or trying to take that moment, is my mind never shuts off. I have a traumatic brain injury, and I have ADHD that was because of that. And until I got diagnosed, I couldn't understand why I was all over the place, right? And so it's really hard for me to concentrate on that one thing or that one sound or that one moment. And, you know, with yoga and other things, and of course, being a mental health warrior and trying different things, that's really helped and helped me, you know, because one thing I talked about a couple podcasts ago, you know, I had a really bad month in September. Of course, I was very busy. And of course, you know, I was at Pentagon 9/11. And then October 3rd, I jumped in the Chesapeake Bay and saved 3 out of 4 fishermen. I talked about that on the podcast. And so, you know, you get, of course, with Suicide Prevention Month and everything like that. And I have injuries in my back. So I get Botox in my back. And I was out running one day and came back and I got this real weird pain in my chest. I know it's not my heart because went to cardiology. I know it's not in my heart. My brain keeps telling me that it is, right? And I couldn't stop that train of thought. This is what you need to help you stop training that to stop those thoughts that run you down into that rabbit hole. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody who's listening, or if you listen to the podcast or what, you'll understand what that rabbit hole looks like. Right. Because that leads to other things. Right. Karen, you study psychology. It can lead to drinking. It can lead to self-medication, you know, not sleeping at night. That road can be very ugly as you start going down it.
Yes. And it's, you know, that's a tragedy that you may not even notice that you're, you know, trending downwards, because we get used to things. We get used to all kinds of things. And then all of a sudden we are in that dark place and we ask ourselves, how did we get there? And where is everyone else? Right. And that's not the moment when you're going to ask, when it's going to be easy to ask for help. That's why we really have to see the early signs, and we have to learn the easy and always accessible tools, such as breathing. The young gentleman that you saw is my co-founder, Dr. Herbert Bay, who explains the breathing, and he's also a vet. And he the way he learned and the relationship to breathing that he has, he you know, he used to do deep diving, apnea, the diving very, very deep in the sea and the lakes.
So he was breathing nitrogen instead of oxygen. He's going
well,
that deep down, right?
Well, no, he holds his breath, and
he's a free diver.
Yeah, and and for him, it's an experience. It's almost a spiritual experience, because he loves it down there. But you have to deal with your, you know, biggest fears, because you could die anytime, right? Yeah. And to do this, like, consciously and proactively, go deep, hold your breath, be down there and not freak out, not panic, because it can kill you, is the best way to feel freedom and to reclaim control over whatever is not going right. So he talks about breathing and how to do it and why it's so important. But the most important thing is that everyone can do it. So it's not, you know, you don't have to have money to do it. You don't have to have anything special, any gear, any whatever. You just have to start doing it. Yes, in the beginning, you might need some help on how to breathe in right and breathe out right. But it can be learned so easily. And it's amazing what it can do. It's really amazing. When I discovered it for myself, I used to suffer from stage fright, and, you know, terribly. It's so powerful, especially in the moments where you feel like nobody can help you, especially in the moments when you feel like you're powerless, that like everything around you controls you, when you feel like your body's doing whatever it wants. That's when you can, you know, go for breathing. And it's really 1 minute can make all the difference. And as the more you practice this, it doesn't take lots of time. The more you practice it, the more you can just have it, you know, ready when something strikes. When whatever it is, whether it's an inner trigger, or it's an environmental trigger, or a situation or relationship problem, whatever it is there. And you can do it almost silently. You know, it's not like people are going to notice. So I do it when I'm mad at when I get mad at someone. I have this South American temper,
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not good when you're in certain situations. You have to keep your calm, right? And then doing that breathing that you train so often, oh, it's liberating. And you get better and better every time you use it, right? Yeah. So I can only encourage you. And if breathing is not your thing, then there's other things. Listening to music, I'm with you. Yeah, try it. There is an ambience mixer as well that you can use with sounds. There's just, there's been a study out just recently from the Max Planck Institute in Germany that proves that, for example, the sound of the bird song can help even healthy people to reduce anxiety and irrational thoughts. And it's just
you posted that on Twitter today, right?
Did I did, yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
It's astounding because it's something that is available, and it's something that gives us within like seconds a feeling of the world is okay, I'm safe, and it's something you can't think yourself into that situation sometimes.
No.
But opening your ears and exposing yourself to certain sounds, going outside can really work. I'm not saying it works for everyone, but it's now proven scientifically that it does make a huge difference, right?
Well, I mean, who isn't, and when, I wear hearing aids and I talk about that, right? When I take my hearing aids out, I can't hear the trees, of the leaves rustling in the trees. And so with them in, I can hear that again, right? So now I have that ability to do that now. And it's great because I grew up on a farm, so I was always outside. One thing I read about the other day is that, do you know why birds start chirping an hour before sunrise?
I have no idea, and I would love to know.
It wakes the trees up.
Are you really?
I was like, no way. And so it has something to do with the leaves of the trees and the birds vibrating. The trees produce whatever they produce that day to attract whatever insects. And that's why birds generally start making noise an hour before sunrise.
I've been asking myself that for so long.
Oh,
and
really?
I'll tell you why. Yes, I'll tell you why. Because in April, so in Switzerland we have seasons. It's really cold in the winter. It's quite warm in the summer. Yeah. And in April, my partner and I decided to start sleeping outside because I love seeing the sky and the stars, and I'm asthmatic, so the fresh air and everything's really good for me.
I sleep with my window open every night, winter, summer, whatever.
We did that too, but we decided to go a step further and just test and see what our data says, right?
Yeah.
And we've been doing that, and we're looking at winter now and still sleeping outside. Let's see. But what I noticed was this with the birds. So they would start, very early, and I was like, why are they doing that? Like from everywhere, they kind of gather on those trees and start, making all these this chirping noises, etc. It's wonderful. And it's loud.
Yeah.
And one wonderful thing about sleeping outside or being in nature is that you actually you live the seasons. Yeah. They don't pass you. Like in former years, I would go like, oh, when did summer end? When did spring wake up? And how did it go by? I didn't notice, right? If you sleep outside, if you're outside a lot, you're 100% alive.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something that people, especially people with PTSD or trauma, need to live. This being fully alive in the moment, not in the past, not in the future, now, and feel their body, feel every cell of their body, and smell and see and taste and touch and do all of that. We all need that, but they need it specially. So yeah.
It's this past weekend, if you saw my post on social media, my son had college family day down in Hampton, Sydney, where he goes to college down in Farmville. And Farmville, Virginia's middle of nowhere. Now we have the same 4 seasons here in Virginia, and they're very nice seasons. But I'm the guy that wears shorts and t-shirt year round. And people are like, how can you do that? I'm like, well, let's say it's January and it's 50 degrees. Does that not feel warm to you? They're like, yeah, it's great. I'm like, yeah. So when it starts turning into fall, I just force myself to get used to the colder temperatures. So to me, I never feel cold. I mean, I wear flip-flops in the snow, right? I'll go shovel snow in the driveway and wear flip. It's not because I'm crazy. To me, it's way of me learning, and something I grew up with is adjusting to the seasons, like you were saying. And, one important thing about your app is if somebody uses it and they're journaling and they use it on a daily basis, and you start getting that history, maybe you realize that you have seasonal depression order, because you can go back and look and say, oh, well, why do I always feel down in November? Well, maybe
I mean, you can,
or something. I don't know.
In the stats, you will see temperature, the temperature, weather, and cloudiness, things like that, correlated with your mood and with your anxiety. So after a very short time, unless you're living in a zone where the weather is always the same, you will see whether weather has any influence on your mental health. And that's good to know, because you can prepare. You can prepare mentally, you can prepare otherwise, and it gives you that agency. And that's what I like about knowing what influences you. We even have moon phases that you can correlate with everything, because some people are convinced that the moon has something to do with their emotional
but people
state.
Act crazy when it's a full moon outside, right? And people work in hospitals or whatever. It's like, oh, it's full moon, everybody's gonna be crazy tonight, and
science is divided
behind it. I don't know.
Science is divided. There is papers that say there is papers that say there isn't. So what do you do when there is undecidedness? You look for yourself, and we can't wait to see the results, in a couple of months. We will see whether people actually are influenced by the moon cycle or not. So, we're adding to science, right?
So
with our data.
God made everyone's different. Everybody's different. And so what affects me may not affect you, Karin, or anybody else, and that's okay. And I think tracking a way to easily track it, because people want things easy nowadays. They don't want nothing hard. That's a great feature to have, especially if you suffer from PTSD, because there's always certain dates and times that obviously affect you. But just realizing that, certain sounds, smells affect a lot of veterans. Smells affect me, certain smells, and that'll take me back like that to whatever happened at that moment, to that smell. And it's the most vivid dream you've ever had your entire life, and it's something that you need to deal with. But if you have that and you enter that into your app or whatever, you journal it or you talk about it, in your app, I'm talking about the app, maybe you'll learn to recognize it quicker when those things occur, and you can deal with it better. Like fireworks, a lot of times with veterans, fireworks bother them with the loud explosions and stuff. They actually make special earplugs so the veteran can still enjoy it, but it won't be so loud in the air. My Dr. Valena talked about that. I thought, well, what an amazing thing to have. But to go back with the nature thing, I think it's really important in people finding something they do and enjoy all year round. Right? There's always something to do outside, whether you're wintertime, whether it's summertime, spring, fall. One thing I do when it snows here in Virginia, on a rare occasion it snows, is I have a hill on the side of my house. I build a big snow track, and all the neighbor kids come over. Of course, my 8-year-old loves it. And as soon as the snow starts to fall and they're knocking on my door, are you going to build the snow trail? Are you going to build the snow so they can go sledding? It's a sledding trail I build. And it's a lot of fun because I like being outside, just like you said. I sleep with my window open, in the new house that we built 2 years ago. I'm fully solar. I'm 100% off the grid. I have the Tesla battery packs, but we have a system that every 30 minutes, it brings fresh air into the house and exchanges it. Every 30 minutes, the air inside the house is getting exchanged with fresh air from outside.
Wow, that's really good to have. You know, and also to your point, it gives you, like, if you do things as a routine, not only does it give you some stability and you know, like a good way to start your day, let's say,
Yeah.
but it also lets you experience days in different ways. So, for example, we have the Zurich Lake next to where we live, and we made it a routine
You
to
need to
go
post pictures on
swim.
that. I
Yeah,
bet you get beautiful pictures of sunrises and sunsets.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, and we go swim all year long, and of course it's hard in December, and of course it's hard in January. You're not going to stay for long, but this routine kind of, again, you know, you reclaim a piece of living in the moment and experiencing things as they are. It's cold, yes, and in summer it's maybe warm, and in spring it's different. But it's your body, your bare body there, you know, in nature, doing the same thing over and over again with changing seasons. And it gets easier over time, and it gets exciting over time. And those are things that we can establish for ourselves. It doesn't have to be, you know, going into the cold or wearing shorts all year long. It can be something different, but it needs to be something that you can keep up with, and that it pushes you a little bit. It shouldn't be all that easy, because then it doesn't, you know, you don't grow with it, right? Yeah.
And it's you know, and I'm going to circle back to what I was talking about Hampton, Sydney, because we got to, so they had family day. So we went down there, and Lloyd ran his first 1K race, which he won. Very proud of him. He's so happy over that. And then I ran a 5K race. I didn't win, but I'm okay with that. I wasn't racing to win anyway. But we finished that, right? It was outside. It was early Saturday morning. We finished the 1 and 5K races. And then not even 20 minutes later, we're out on the Appomattox River kayaking. And so we're out there kayaking for, you know, 2 hours and just really enjoying that. And then we get back in, we go eat lunch, and then we spend the rest of the afternoon fishing. You know, so we were literally outside all day long. And I took this photo. I'm going to try to show it. So this is one of the fish that he caught, but look how happy my youngest one is. I mean, he just, and you know, this is after the 1K race and all the kayaking, we're out fishing. He caught that bass there. But what just great fun. You know, me and my boys, we always did a lot of things outside. I think it's very important. You know, and I think it's just, I say this all the time on my podcast, find something that you enjoy, and you alluded to that, right? It doesn't have to be extreme things or something. You know, I like gardening. I garden. I'm addicted to solar, and you know, I get depressed on cloudy days now because I'm not generating as much power. I'm just joking, but I do tell people that when you go solar on your house, you don't like cloudy days anymore, because then you don't generate as much power. But you know, it's important to find, you know, something you do. You know, I have a car. I go to car shows. It's something I do with the boys together. Not so much Junior anymore because he's at college, but with Lloyd. And it's just important to find that one thing that you enjoy, that makes you happy, and something that you can reflect on. You know, having pictures can be powerful. Listening to music's powerful. Learning, you know, good breathing techniques and those kinds of things. All that kind of helps. You know, when you're going into a bad place, is just to have something that you can quickly log on to an app to stop that train of thought that's going to lead you down a road you don't want to go down. So that's really great. And I think that's really important. We're getting ready to finish up here. Karin, I know it's late where you're at. I appreciate you staying up late to come on the show. But really, you know, as we close out here, I just really want to say thank you for all that you do. Thank you for, you know, caring for everybody to develop this really great and wonderful app. And I hope everybody listening goes out and downloads it, crashes your system because so many people are downloading it, and then you have to fix it. But it is amazing. And I think it's also something that will help children also. I think it's, you know, I think children will benefit from this also, not just adults. You know, we all have kids, you know, ones that do have kids, but we're all a big family. So with that, I wouldn't mind if you have any last words, and we'll go ahead and get this finished up. And I would love to have you and your co-founder come back on. I would love to have him talk about his deep diving experience. I think a lot of my viewers would really be into that.
Yeah.
So maybe we can get you guys back on maybe next month if you guys have time.
Sure, we'll take the
that might
time.
be fun.
Yeah, one last thing that I'd love to say, because it ties into what you say in your posts, in your shows, this talking about what is going on and what we feel and being honest with ourselves. The app helps to express our feelings, because before we can talk to someone else, sometimes we need to kind of talk to ourselves or talk into a device to just see, oh, it's not that hard, and it's actually very therapeutic to get it all out there. And you can trash it, you can erase it if you don't like it, but to start that first step of just getting the words out or sounds out, whatever you need to do.
And that's that can about your app is that you can speak to it, you don't have to type it. And
you don't have to type.
That is amazing. I'm just gonna say that's amazing, because I would speak it more than I would type it. I would. Yes,
me too. And a lot of people who use it are young people, like people age, below 30. And for them, it's like they don't want to type. It needs to be very effortless. But however it's best for you is right. So use it the way you want. Get in touch. I answer every request, every question. I listen to suggestions because I'm so curious to learn from your experiences, from everyone who's on this show or is listening. Let's connect, let's weave that community of people who are aware, who want to be 100% alive and understand themselves better. Yeah.
Right. And we're all in this together. I want to say, Karin, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I really appreciate the app that you developed and how you developed it, because I really, people always talk about forward thinkers, right? And I've been doing this for a while, and we always talked about, oh man, I wish we could have an app that would do this and do that. And I would say your app does a lot, and it's helping a lot of people worldwide. And that's just a great, awesome thing. Veteran Trash Talkers, mental health warriors out there, I want to thank you for tuning in tonight. I hope you will go out and look at the app that Earkick has developed. It's an amazing app. They have a website out there. It's just www.earkick.com.
Correct.
And now Google, if you use Google, it will try to change it to ear lick. It did that to me a couple of times. I was like, what the? So make sure it's ear kick, all one word, but Google will auto correct at least once. It did on mine. So that was kind of funny. But it's a great, amazing tool. I talk about it all the time. It's important to have tools in your toolbox out there. So you guys go out and have a great rest of your week. If you do download the Earkick app, please throw it in the comments on this. I would be interested to see what you think about it and how you feel about it. I'm sure Karin would be interested in that too. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that glass of wine as you watched our show tonight. And you guys have a great week. Thanks a lot.